Hi everyone, it's Michelle here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do a stamping technique with the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. I'm using these pens because it's kind of a new thing in the card making world. I feel like a lot of people are getting them recently, and I have been doing quite a few videos with them, and people have commented saying that they really like seeing different things you can do with them. So here's just the set that I have of these markers. I just have the really simple 12 color basic set. I know a lot of people have much larger sets with more colors, but I find that these 12 colors work for me because since they're kind of like watercolor markers, you can blend colors together really easily to create new colors. So today I'm going to be using the Holiday Sparkle stamp set by the Alleyway Stamps, and we're going to be kind of coloring in our stamps today to do a stamping technique. So to start off with, I'm using watercolor paper that's been cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Since we are kind of going to be making this a little wet, and you'll see that later on. So I've just pulled out a few stamps from this stamp set. I'm actually going to be using all of them on my card, but I'm just doing them one at a time. And you can see here that what I'm doing is coloring directly onto these stamps with the markers. And I've pulled out colors that are kind of good for snowflakes, so grays and blues. And you can see that I'm coloring directly onto the snowflake and kind of overlapping the colors a little bit just to create kind of a pattern on the snowflake, and these colors are going to blend together directly onto the stamp. So instead of coloring something in, which you've seen me do in previous videos, today we're going to be stamping with it. And here you can see I have this Perfect Pearls spray, and here's just how it looks compared to a normal water spray. You can see how it's very shimmery inside. So I just took a mister bottle and put some of the Perfect Pearls powder that makes it all shimmery and just mix it all up in there. And I'm just spraying 1 or 2 times onto these colors that I've colored onto the stamp, and you can see here when I press it down, it kind of smushes around on the stamp and you get this really nice blended look, and you barely have to do any work because the water really blends those colors for you. So I'm going to show this to you again. I'm picking a different stamp. This one's a little smaller, so I'm just doing 2 colors, but still the blending that you get from those 2 colors is really nice. And here I'm overlapping the colors a little bit more on the stamp, and this doesn't damage your markers if you touch the colors together since they're real brushes, and you can kind of just scribble off onto a piece of scrap paper if you get color onto the tips. So you can see how that blended really nicely to get that watercolor look. So it kind of looks like you painted it, but you really just stamped it. And I just did another one alternating the colors. So some of them I'm mixing colors, some of them I'm going to do completely solid just to get a different look. And you don't want to spray too much. You might have to practice just to like see how much water is good for you. But I find that really just one spray is perfect, because if you put too much water, then it gets a little too runny. And actually in this example for this snowflake, you can see how I got a lot of ink onto that marker. So I just scribbled it off on the side, which was my testing paper. And it was completely fine afterwards. All the color just comes out of that brush. And this one I actually forgot to spray with the Perfect Pearls mist, but it blended really well still. And it turned out to look really nice. So there's a different look if you want to try that as well. And you can see in between each of these stampings, I'm just cleaning my stamps off with a baby wipe. And since it's already wet, it cleans off really well anyway. But your hands might get a little inky, as you might notice mine are getting. So I'm just going to continue this process of coloring in my stamps and just spraying them with water and then stamping them. And I'll turn on some music so you can see how the rest of this background fills in. So here's the completed background with all of the shimmery snowflakes that have a little bit of shine from the Perfect Pearls mist. I'm going to score my card base, which I picked this turquoise color because it kind of matches with some of the blues that are in my snowflakes. And I'm just going to trim down my watercolor piece about 1/4 inch on each side, 1/4 to 1/2 an inch, just so that it has a nice mat around the card base. And I'm going to create my sentiment on some vellum because I really want my snowflakes to show through. Since I spent so long making them, might as well make them the highlight of the card. So I'm going to be heat embossing the sentiment that comes with this stamp set onto this vellum. And it says, "Hope your holiday sparkles," which is perfect since my snowflakes are a little bit shimmery. And I'm using this tinsel embossing powder from Ranger that's silver, so I think that'll be really festive for a holiday card. In hindsight, I might have chosen an embossing powder that doesn't have tinsel in it because the sentiment is a little small, so the smaller letters were a little hard to read, but I kind of just went with it anyway since I already did that. So I am just positioning this vellum onto my card and wrapping it around. I'm making sure that the sentiment shows through so that the background behind it isn't too busy. And I really like doing this with vellum sentiments because I can just wrap this strip around and then you don't have to deal with using adhesive that won't show through. I just use my normal tape runner and I only add adhesive on the back where it wraps around. And if it floats on the front a little bit, I'm totally okay with that. It actually helps the sentiment to show through a little bit more because it makes the back images a little more blurry, if that makes sense. So anyway, here's the finished card. I really like how these snowflakes came out, and this was a really fun technique for me to try out with these markers that I've been really loving recently. And I'm sure a lot of you have been loving them too and have been trying to find new ways to use them. So I really hope that this video inspired you to try some watercolor stamping. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and you might also enjoy these videos on screen. The first one shows you another tutorial using these markers where I colored in an image. The second one has another watercolor card I created, and the third has a card that I created using the same stamp set that I used today. Make sure to subscribe to the Alleyway Stamps and my YouTube channel, and I hope to see you again soon.